Infinite Looper 2.0 from Secret Base Design is available now. In this video, I'll give a quick overview and then walk you through the features so that you can get the most out of the app. If you're not familiar with Infinite Looper, the best thing to compare it to is an audio looper that you might use with a guitar. The idea is to capture a musical phrase, loop it, and then play back a second phrase on top to build up a composition in layers. Infinite Looper does this, but with MIDI. The app is universal, but for this video, we'll mostly use the iPhone version so that it's easier to see what's going on. Here on the main interface, there are 6 tracks for different instruments. I've started a drum loop with a pattern that was imported from a MIDI file. This pattern is going to loop, and then we're going to be able to add a second line for bass line on another track. Because this is all done with MIDI, you can toggle loops on and off, and you can switch in and out different instruments to change the sound. Infinite Looper has literally hundreds of different sampled instruments. You can also add more sounds with inter-app audio or external MIDI equipment, and there's enough built in just to get you going right away. And so here I'm just going to toggle on and off a few different loops, bring in some different instruments, and you can fiddle around and do stuff like this. The loops are imported from groovemonkey.com, a source for a lot of good, high-quality MIDI loops. As you might expect, there's a built-in keyboard for the app, and so I'm going to go through some of the configurations you can do. You've got the keyboard down at the bottom part of the screen. You can select different tools on a little 2-ball selector, but here I'll play a few notes off of the grand piano. And if you select a different instrument, you get a different sound. None of this should be terribly surprising to you folks who know a little bit about MIDI. There's built-in guitar, all sorts of synthesizers, and then multiple drum sets. The different sounds for the drum set are to map to different keys. There's also pitch bend and modulation, standard MIDI tools that you'd expect in pretty much any app. There are a couple of things you can do to configure the keyboard. Here we're going to slide the pitch bend and modulation out of the way. You can slide back and forth with the scroll bar, and you can also tap to the left or right hand side of the scroll bar to make the keys wider or narrower. Okay, and now we're going to actually open up the keyboard controls, and you can select different scales. So I've got a bunch of different scales that are built into the app. Pull up a blues scale. Now some of the notes are going to be grayed out because they're not in the scale and they're disabled. If you want to have them turned on and be able to touch them, just enable them. So you've still got an indication of what notes are in the scale, but they're not going to be on or off based on how you want it. Here we've got them all turned on. And if you just want to pick out those notes alone, you can move it to scale mode, and the keys line up. All right, I'm going to switch back to a regular keyboard here and do something that is a little bit unusual for this app. Infinite Looper has pitch-to-MIDI. It can detect the sound of a note being sung or whistled, so I'll whistle a little bit. You can sort of think of the piano keyboard as a tuner. So if you are trying to pick out a bass line, you can use the keyboard to see what notes are being played. Now let's jump over and do a little bit of looping of recorded MIDI. So we're going to play a few notes on the keyboard and then have things loop back. We're doing this video with a screen capture, so there's about 1.5 seconds of latency between what's happening on screen and what I can hear. So the actual recording is going to be disastrous, but should give you an idea of how it works. Up at the top in the gray box, you can pick the number of measures you want to loop. I've moved this to 2 measures, turned on recording, and selected a loop that I want to record into. Once we hit play, drum track's going to be cranking along, and we've got an indicator of where we're recording. Now loops and notes that are going to be played on a keyboard or through an external keyboard controller are going to get recorded. I've got quantization turned to quarter notes here, and we can tap a few keys, and they'll be synced up perfectly to the quarter note beat. Again, screen recorder, making this really difficult. If you don't like it, simply swipe to the left, you can erase, and try recording something else. You've got 6 different tracks of MIDI, 8 loops on each track, plenty of space to work with. So next up, let's talk about something that's unique to Infinite Looper, the Song Arranger. If you've used loops to make music before, you probably know that it's really easy to get trapped into having the same loop going on for 10 minutes at a time and nothing changes. The Song Arranger will let you select a different set of loops and put together a song in segments. So you might have an intro, a verse, a chorus, a bridge, and you can have this loops automatically toggle on and toggle off as you go. So we're going over to the Arranger tab. We're going to switch it to song mode. So it's going to switch loops automatically. And I've got a couple of loops selected. Hit the add section and we have a new section to the song. Toggle on a different set of loops. You can create another section. And I'll add one more section just to give you an idea of how this works. 3 sections here. And now you can edit them. You can change the number of times they loop, change the names, anything like that. So let's modify section 1. We'll call it introduction or something like that. And we'll make another name for the second section. And again, here's where you would change the repeats. So the repeat, currently repeating only one time. We'll have this one be the chorus. And just because everything needs a bridge, let's take it to the bridge. So I've got 3 sections here. If I want to rearrange a song, just hit edit arrange it. You can drag the sections around, delete them, add them in. And so you can build up a composition that's not just a single loop churning away forever, but moves from one section to another seamlessly. With song mode, it will go one to the next, and you can export the whole thing as MIDI. So if you want to pull it into a desktop DAW, you can do that. And there's also a little notepad, so if you want to jot down lyrics or make notes about which patches you have on your synthesizers, there's a good spot for you to do it. All right, so next up, we'll show you a little bit about the built-in instruments and also about inter-app audio. Built into the app are literally hundreds of different instruments, and you probably can figure that stuff out, but there's also inter-app audio, which will let you connect to other synthesizer apps on your iOS device. Here I'm pulling in the synth Cassini. MIDI is automatically routed to that synthesizer. So it's got a nice little arpeggiator, and you've got that going. Tap the gear icon on any of the 6 tracks, and you can insert different IAA synths or select different synth patches. If you want to give the track a name, you can simply type into the menu box there and call the track what you like. You can also use external MIDI devices, so send MIDI over Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, or USB to any of your hardware synths or other controllers. If you want to change the channel, just do a long press on the interface. And one more thing. If you've got a track where you want to have only one loop going on at any time, you toggle in the upper left. Here we've got it for multiple loops. Toggle back and forth. It'll turn things on and off automatically, so you select only one loop at a time. All right, let me go into what the pads do for Infinite Looper. There are 10 pages of 10 pads each, so a lot of configuration is available. And the idea is it might be hard to play a chord cleanly on the on-screen keyboard, so we've got pads that will let you do that. Here we've got a bunch of different chords. You can send them to different instruments, so you can move around fairly easily. And the drums kit is normally on the second page of pads, and so we've got the names of different instruments mapped here, so you can see what you're playing. If you want to change chords or add new assignments, hold down on the gear icon, tap it, turns red, and then you can select a pad, and that brings up the dialog box where you can select a note or a different chord or anything like that. Here we'll go over to the first set of pads, to the chords, turn on configuration, and if you want to hear what a chord sounds like, simply tap anywhere to select a different chord, and it'll give you a short sample of what it's going to sound like. You can also send program change and control chain messages with the pads. Infinite Looper also contains a simple mixer, so you can change volume levels and pan left and right each of the 6 different instruments. That's here on this tab. And it should be very straightforward, shouldn't be any surprises on how this thing works. So we'll set things on, start things playing, and I'll pan things left and right and change the volumes a little bit. Alright, next up, let's talk for a minute or two about the file browser. Shouldn't be any great surprises, should be very straightforward. Switch over to this tab, and then you can open up different projects and save and duplicate things as you see fit. Just select the project, hit open, and it opens up. All the loops are in place. If you want to, you open something else, or you can duplicate and create new copies. There's also a built-in audio recorder, so if we'll toggle on record in the upper right-hand corner, we can record whatever gets played. So here we're going to start up a loop, play something for a minute or two, and you can record an entire song, whatever you're playing live, anything along those lines. Turn off record, and you'll notice that a new file is opened up in the WAV file audio recording list on the right. You can select it, and if you hit play, it will play back for you. If you want to export either the audio or the project, just tap export, and you can send it to another iOS device or to a Mac or through email. One of the great things with MIDI is you can go back and fix a performance. So if you've got a bum note somewhere in there, you can go in and change it or fix up the timing, all sorts of things. So the way to do it with Infinite Looper is find the loop that you want to change and then do a long press on the loop. That will open up the piano roll editor interface. Alright, so here we've got a loop open. It's 2 measures long. You can scroll up and down as you might expect, and also pan left and right. You can zoom in and zoom out to see more notes or fewer notes on screen. Right now we've got the magic wand tool selected. Does a number of different things. If you grab on the left-hand side of a note, you can move it around. If you turn on quantization, things will snap to quarter note or eighth note or 16th note bars. So here we're going to drag it around, move it back to quarter notes. All right, to zoom back in a little bit here. And now we're going to change the volume or the velocity of the note by grabbing on the middle and swiping up or down. Brighter orange is a little bit louder, darker orange is a little bit quieter. If you grab on the end of the note, the last third, and move left or right, you can change the length, and you can also select multiple notes and edit multiple notes at the same time. All right, we're going to move to the next tool here. The pencil tool will let you insert or delete notes one at a time. So I'm going to turn it to quarter notes, and if I tap on a note, it'll delete it. If I tap somewhere else, it will insert something new. If you've got the up and down arrow, you will keep the timing exactly the same, but change the pitch on the notes, or you can select the volume, and any swipe will not change where the note is, but will change volume. You can also set it so it just changes the length. Over on the right is a little hamburger icon that will bring up the dialog. I'm going to use that to clear out the notes, and then we're going to switch to step mode. Every note that comes in from any source, MIDI controller or anywhere else, is going to get inserted one at a time into the track. So if you're trying to build up a bass line or transcribe a tricky part, you can do it note by note and have it snap to the grid very easily. So here I've added a bunch of notes, and they're snapped in one after another from the step insert mode. All right, a few more things to show you. We're going to select a couple of notes, and then we can duplicate them with the little duplicate button. So we'll go back to Magic Wand, selected some notes. Duplicate button will create a copy that I can move around. They're both selected, so I drag them and they'll move as a group. I'll use a pencil and delete them though. And now we're going to jump over and look at the actual controller interface. Hit the little knob icon, and you can add in pitch bend or any of the other MIDI CC messages you might want to send. If you want to change a CC message, touch where it says pitch bend or anything else, and you swipe left or right to move through the different MIDI controllers. You can also step one at a time, up and down, with the plus and minus button. All right, let's jump back and look at a few more things that are on the dialog box. You can copy a set of selected notes or clear them, make duplicates and move them around. If you want to change the length of the loop, select the Modify tab. You can add notes, add measures, double things. Should be very straightforward. Quantization tab has the things you'd expect there. And also the Transposition tab, no surprises. Move things up or down an octave, up or down semitones. The last tab is where you can import and export loops from other projects. So we've got a bunch of notes here, and we're going to clear them out so we can open up space to bring in something new. Here I've selected an infinite looper file, and there's some tracks from there. And I can hit clear loop, and then insert the notes I've selected, and I've got a new batch of stuff, potentially from a different file or from a library of loops that I want to use repeatedly. Each infinite loop file has 6 different tracks, so you can select each track one at a time. You can clear out the loop, select something else, and there they are. And actually I've just pulled in one measure of notes, and the current loop is 4 measures long, so I need to scroll around to find where the notes are. And I'll go back and I'm going to modify the loop to get rid of these extra blank measures. So go over to the Modify tab, and you can remove the measures at the end, clear it out entirely blank, and then we'll insert the loop. Here, we're going to look through some MIDI files. Again, there are lots of places on the internet where you can find good MIDI loops to use. I've got a bunch of things here from groovemonkey.com. So I'll grab a baseline loop out of the file, highlight it, and I can insert it. And then I've got a baseline pulled in from a MIDI file. Play this back for a moment. And there it is on our track. If you've recorded a loop that you like and you want to be able to send it out to a different destination, you can also export things directly to MIDI files. All right, let's go through some of the basic controls on the main screen. You can do things like change the tempo, switch from triplets to quarter notes. There's some MIDI learn, things like that. First off, let's take a look at the tempo. It's 120. Tap on that to bring up the dialog where you can switch the tempo, move up and down. The app supports Ableton Link, so you should be able to sync this with other iOS apps or with Ableton running on a desktop. Now let's take a look at the little gear icon that has some of the app controls. Tap that, brings up a dialog. You can turn on quantization to either triplets or quarter notes, switching back and forth. The app normally does not record pitch bend or CC notes, but you can toggle this on. And there's also a MIDI learn. So if you've got a foot pedal or something like that, you can turn the app on and off, turn on off recording, and select from one track to the next. You can also move from one song section to another. Lastly, there's pitch to MIDI. that's new in Infinite Looper 2.0. Just like the keyboard was detecting which notes you were singing or playing, we can detect the note from a guitar or something like that, and then turn that into a MIDI note, which can be recorded. So if you used our app MIDI Morphosis, some of this should be familiar. It does pitch to MIDI automatically built in to Infinite Looper 2.0. I'm going to go through that a little bit next in the next section. All right, let's take a look at pitch to MIDI. A lot of people use a guitar as their main instrument, and it's really a chore to transcribe notes. So we've added this pitch to MIDI in Infinite Looper, where you can play on a keyboard, the pitch will be detected, and trigger a note in the synthesizer. I've moved over to an iPad here, and playing a Telecaster through a Focusrite instrument interface, just to show you how this works. You can switch from different synthesizers. Let's pull up something off the Grateful Dead set. Ooh yeah, good times, good times. And we'll go back here. We've got pitch to MIDI turned on, and also the keyboard tracking so you can see which notes are being played. You can change which sort of note ranges you're expecting to transcribe. Higher notes, higher pitched notes are faster tracking. Infinite Looper is available now. You can check it out in the iTunes store.